The world was transfixed by the case of missing Gabby Petito. She was an up-and-coming YouTuber and influencer. After weeks of a very public search, her body was found. Authorities believe her boyfriend, Brian Laundrie, murdered her, not only because of his strange behavior, because he was seen fighting with her, and because he ran and hid from authorities in a swamp, but also because of a letter they found in his backpack that discussed what had happened. But there was another letter, maybe in the backpack, maybe not. And that's what this video is about. Gabby Petito's parents are suing Brian Laundrie's parents. And now they have hot new evidence, a strange letter that Brian's mother wrote to her son. On the outside of the envelope, it said, "Burn after reading." But is the letter really all that incriminating? Does it really mean that Brian Laundrie's mom knew he had killed Gabby Petito? Let's talk about it. Before we get started, please be sure to like the video and subscribe. We are trying to get to 100,000 subscribers, and thanks to everyone who has already subscribed. Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito had been traveling together for some time when they finally reached the Grand Teton National Forest in Wyoming. Before they set out on their trip, Brian and Gabby had lived with Brian's parents in Florida. On September 1st, 2022, Brian returned to the Florida house, but he was alone. Meanwhile, Gabby's family was looking for Gabby, and soon pretty much everybody got involved. Everybody, that is, except Brian Laundrie. He disappeared into a Florida swamp. Gabby's body was found on September 19th. Law enforcement concluded she died of strangulation. Brian's remains were found in the Florida swamp about a month later on October 21st. Authorities found a letter near Brian's remains. Brian wrote, "I ended her life. I thought it was merciful, that it is what she wanted, but I see now all the mistakes I made." Gabby's family filed a wrongful death suit against Brian Laundrie's estate and won a judgment for $3 million. Brian Laundrie, of course, doesn't have any money. They're not expecting to actually get anything out of that suit. In fact, their lawyer, Patrick Riley, said at the time, no amount of money is sufficient to compensate the Petito family for the loss of their daughter, Gabby, at the hands of Brian Laundrie. Brian did not have $3 million. It's an arbitrary number. Gabby's family also sued Brian's family, not for harming Gabby, because it appears Brian and Gabby were alone when she was murdered, and there's no evidence that Brian's parents were involved. The parents are being sued for emotional distress. Here's why. The Petito family begged everyone, including the Laundrie family, for help finding Gabby. The Laundries issued a statement. "It is our understanding that a search has been organized for Miss Petito in or near Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming. On behalf of the Laundrie family, it is our hope that the search for Miss Petito is successful and that Miss Petito is reunited with her family." But the Petitos say that at the time the Laundries issued this statement, the Laundries already knew that Gabby was dead, that the search was not going to be successful, and that Gabby was not going to be reunited with her family. There were a lot of odd behaviors by the Laundrie family around this time that the Petitos say are evidence that they knew what had happened. But one of the key pieces of evidence related to a letter that Roberta Laundrie wrote to her son, Brian. The parties don't agree on much about the letter. They don't agree on whether it should be part of the trial. The Laundries asked for a protective order so they would not have to produce the letter to the Petitos. On Wednesday evening, the judge in the case ruled in favor of the Petitos, saying the Laundries do need to produce the letter. The Petitos and the Laundries also do not agree on when the letter was written. Roberta Laundrie says she wrote the letter before Brian and Gabby left on their trip. The Petitos say the letter was written after Gabby was killed, and it shows the Laundries knew she was dead, and so they knew she would not be found and returned. The parties don't even agree on where the letter was found. The Petitos' lawyer says the letter was found in Brian's backpack. The Laundries have said it was in the FBI's possession for weeks before they found Brian's backpack and his remains. Let's look at the letter itself and what it says. "I just want you to remember, I will always love you, and I know you will always love me. You are my boy. Nothing can make me stop loving you. Nothing will or could ever divide us. No matter what we do or where we go or what we say, we will always love each other. It's a sweet love letter so far, although it is a little over the top for a boy in his 20s heading off on a trip with his girlfriend. And now it's about to get a little weird. If you're in jail, I will bake a cake with a file in it. If you need to dispose of a body, I will show up with a shovel and garbage bags. If you fly to the moon, I will be watching the skies for your reentry. If you say you hate my guts, I'll get new guts. The Petitos say the references to jail and disposing of a body show that the Laundries knew Gabby was dead and Brian had murdered her. Roberta Laundrie said it was just flowery love language from a mom to a son. The letter goes on, remember that love is a verb, not a noun. It's not a thing, it's not words, it is actions. Watch people's actions to know if they love you, not their words. And she then quotes from the Bible, therefore I am certain that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor the ruling spirits, nor things present, nor things to come, nor powers from above, nor powers from below, nothing in the entire created world can separate our love. Neither hostile powers, nor messengers of heaven, nor monarchs of earth, nothing has the power to separate us. And that's a paraphrase from Romans 8:38. Nothing can separate us, she then goes on to add, not hatred, not hunger, not homelessness, not threats, not even sin, not the thinkable or unthinkable can get between us. Not time, not miles and miles and miles. Mostly that latter part would just be good love advice, although the references to not even sin or the thinkable or unthinkable getting between us will definitely be points that the Petitos are going to point to. Most dramatically of all, the outside of the envelope said burn after reading. Roberta Laundrie says Brian, Gabby, and she had all read a book, Burn After Writing, and they often joked about it. So this was just an inside joke, she says. Let's take a look at what the letter could mean. We'll start with the evidence that supports what the Laundries say the letter means, and then turn to the evidence that supports what the Petitos say it means. I'm not going to talk about all the actions of the Laundries after their son came home alone. This is just about the letter. First, Brian obviously did not burn the letter. The letter said to burn it. If it really was a letter that could show his mother knew about a crime, why wouldn't he do what she asked and burn it? He was alone in the swamp and had time to prepare for his death, including by burning the letter. Second, the letter does not have a sense of urgency. If you're in jail, I will bake a cake with a file in it. Sounds a little flippant almost, not like he's really about to be in prison. If you need to dispose of a body, I will show up with a shovel and garbage bags. That sentence does not sound like he really has a body to dispose of, and there'd be no reason to think he would have another body to dispose of besides Gabby's. Third, the letter is all written in the future tense. If Roberta Laundrie believed her son already was guilty of murder, it would make more sense to say something like, regardless of what you have done in the past, I will love you forever. Fourth, conceivably, they really were into the book she mentioned, and the reference to burn after reading really was an inside joke, although it is a strange inside joke. I looked up the book on Amazon, and here's a shot of it. It says it's a writing journal for self-healing and discovery questions to ask yourself. Notebook, anti-anxiety for adults and teens. This is not your, and this, I'm still quoting, this is not your average notebook. It's a writing journal designed for self-healing and discovery. It's a place to reflect on your thoughts and feelings and to answer important questions about yourself. Use it as a tool for self-care and self-discovery. Let it help you find peace and clarity in your life. Now let's take a look at the support for the Petitos' argument that this letter is very damning and shows Roberta Laundrie knew that Brian had killed Gabby. First, while Roberta Laundrie is right that mothers write love notes to their sons, the references to jail and burying bodies are peculiar. It's quite a coincidence that Roberta Laundrie wrote these very specific things about bodies in jail when her son was mere months from committing murder and potentially facing jail. It's extremely bad luck for Roberta Laundrie if this note was just intended to be a sweet message to her son. Second, if this was really intended as a sweet note, just to remind her son that she loved him as he travels, wouldn't she want him to save it? Why would she write "burn after reading" on it? Third, let me pull up the note again and notice how Brian's name is written very neatly, but "burn after reading" is written in a hasty scrawl. It makes it seem like "burn after reading" was added later, which makes it seem less like a joke and more like an actual message she wanted to convey. Now, in a twist, once the judge ruled, the Laundries released the letter to the media. So they had objected to anyone, including the Petitos, seeing it, but once they knew the cat was out of the bag, they released it themselves. Here's what Roberta Laundrie has said about the letter. She said, "While I used words that seemed to have a connection with Brian's actions and his taking of Gabby's life, I never would have fathomed the events that unfolded months later between Brian and Gabby would reflect the words in my letter. The words in the letter could never have been a comment on that tragic situation, as they were written so many months before. My words to Brian were meant to convey my love and support for my son through a lighthearted and quirky reminder that my love for him was not diminished and could not be shaken by the miles of separation we would soon be faced with. I truly loved my son and simply wanted to convey to him how much he meant to me and how much I loved him. I am sure people use phrases all the time to express to their loved ones the depths of their love. Although I chose words that I thought would be impactful with Brian, given our relationship, the letter was in no way related to Gabby. Please read the entire letter before you believe the hype put out by Pat Riley. Now, Pat Riley is the lawyer for the Petitos. The Petitos were upset that the Laundries released the letter and made a statement. Here's the statement they issued through their attorney, Pat Riley. Roberta Laundrie has issued a self-serving statement and released the "burn after reading" letter after Judge Danielle Brewer yesterday denied her motion for a protective order to preclude a release of the letter to the Petito family. The letter was not released to the press by us. It is interesting that she would do this now, given that she has resisted providing it for the last 5 to 6 months. She asked for a protective order, asked for a confidentiality agreement in the afternoon of May 24, 2023, and then released it later that day. Personally, I think it made sense for the Laundries to release it and give their side. As an attorney, if you can keep potentially prejudicial evidence out of evidence, then you do. If you can't, then you try to deal with it. This case is being publicly played out in the media, and so dealing with it at the public level makes sense. What was out there, "burn without reading," and the knowledge that it said something about jail and burials was very prejudicial, and Roberta Laundrie believes she has a logical explanation. It makes sense to put that explanation out there along with the letter. What is my personal view about the letter? It's very odd. It's not what I would expect a parent to write to an adult son going on a trip. On the other hand, it also is not the letter I would expect a parent to write to a son who was guilty of murder and who was headed out into a swamp never to be seen again in order to escape the worldwide manhunt for a wanted murderer. I would not be surprised to discover that Roberta Laundrie knew Gabby was dead when the statement was made. The family did act strangely after Brian returned, but I don't think this letter shows Roberta Laundrie knew, because my guess is that the letter truly was written before Brian murdered Gabby. I obviously don't know that for sure. Just personally, I read it that way. The judge ruled that the Petitos should be allowed to see the letter, and that is an absolutely correct ruling in my view. The Petitos should be able to see the letter and argue that it's relevant. What happens next? Unless the Laundries can prove the letter was written before Brian's trip, I think it is very likely that the judge will let it in. And even if the Laundries can prove the letter was written before the trip, the Petitos will probably still argue that it's relevant because Roberta Laundrie was saying, although it was in romanticized language, that she would do whatever it took to help her son avoid prosecution. The Petitos will say Roberta Laundrie was doing exactly that when she issued the press statement. She was buying time for Brian to escape. Ultimately, I think the jury will decide whether the letter suggests that Roberta Laundrie knew that Brian had killed Gabby, or whether or not she was just writing a love note to her son. So like the video and subscribe to hear more about this case and the biggest lawsuits and legal cases in the news.